What's going on, Soul Tribe? I salute the divinity in you, and welcome to the Chariot Friends. Justin here, and how you feeling? You ready to play in the imaginative space of Pisces? We're getting so imaginative, forgot where my words were going. But I find that I was meditating on this and thinking about your general energy, and I think that sometimes Pisces gets seen as like the dreamy, like they're always just kind of staring off in the clouds or staring off into space, but it's those moments when you allow yourself to get into that creative visualization type of space where all the inspiration happens, where the feeling for what's next can come into there. We're going to talk about playing around in that space all here in a minute. But if you're new here, again, my name is Justin. And then when you're coming across this video, you're in sync with the moon, and who doesn't love that? But this is also a place for you if you happen to have Cancer in your placements. Sun, moon rising, maybe Jupiter, wherever. This one's for you. But we all have Cancer placements, we all have moon placements, and benefit from knowing what's going on with that luminary. So this is for anybody who just wants to kick it. And I do tarot card spreads, amongst other things, based on that lovely luminary, the good old moon. And I'll talk about what sign it's in, what phase it's in, when it's going void of course, just all them lunar shenanigans. And just so you're all aware, this is a general reading, not a 1-2-1. So take what fits into your story, discard the rest, and everything will be dope. Now, let's jump into it, because I always really enjoy when the moon's in Pisces. This is always a really nice period of time, usually a quieter time in my chart personally, so I'm not mad at that. Especially with all the activity that's been going on. But before we jump into that, if depending on when you're watching this, I guess when I'm releasing this, happy moon day. The moon is associated with, we're going to talk about Mars Day, because that's when this lunation is going to be for. So happy Mars Day, depending on when you're watching this. But Mars is associated with Tuesdays. And when I think about Mars is, about how we get to action, the energy, the drive, the passion, the desire. Those are all martial things. So I find that just like a Mars day, just for on an easy one, this is a great time to just get active. Maybe get outside for a walk, go out for a run, do a workout, go do some, it doesn't have to be anything strenuous, just moving the body, do some yoga, do some Pilates, go swimming, whatever that might look like for you. I find that Mars could be great for that. If you have anything too, maybe if you're going to be doing any sort of like moving or something like that, maybe try to schedule it during like a Mars day, or if you can't, maybe during like doing some of the more heavy lifting around like a Mars hour, at least getting it initiated there. That can kind of help give you that motivation. It's something really cool to explore there. And also too, one other thing that I like working with these planetary days and hours as well, amongst like different magical practices that you can get into with these as well. But I like to think about my relationship with Mars, not just natally, but how do I deal with planets that are aspecting my natal Mars, but also too, how do I deal with Mars transiting and hitting my natal placements, which I actually have a little bit of both going on right now. Currently, Jupiter's coming up on a sextile with my Mars placement, as Mars is coming up on a conjunction with my Jupiter placement. So there's a lot of expansion that's trying to happen right now, and I'm just really trying to channel that energy. But it can really help you to, I think, break down each of the transits so it doesn't seem so busy, where it's like, there could be a lot going on, but let me see if there's anything martial that needs my attention right now. Mars is the lesser malefic, so especially if you have a day chart, you want to have eyes on Mars. But enough about that. Let's go ahead and get into the lunar shenanigans, because the moon is going to enter into Pisces on the 20th of May, and it's going to enter about 5:29 a.m., and that's going to be Pacific time, and we're in a waning crescent phase. Now, when you think about the moon in Pisces, just in general, I think that this is a nice place for the moon to be. Pisces is ruled by Big Papa, Jupiter, and they're traditionally, and they are the mutable water sign, and they're receptive or yin in nature. And Pisces, similar to Gemini, I think where Gemini is flows and is just like breezy, Pisces is very fluid energy. The water is always moving with Pisces. And I find that this is a great time when you think about the water energies. That's the emotions, the feelings, the psychic energy that's coming through. This is a great time for tuning into those energies, getting into, like I said, that imaginative space. Stare at the clouds, see what visuals come up for you, or maybe you're just like listening to the sounds of nature. Maybe you're just listening to music. Maybe you're exploring this through dance. But anything that I think invites you to get into that creative space where you're evoking some sort of feelings there, because that's where the inspiration starts. If things don't have any feeling, then they just fall flat. And that's what I find Pisces does too. That energy has a way of moving not just emotions in you but in others. I think that's a real kind of power that Pisces energy has, and just like something about that just really just kind of unlocks you and just expands your inner world, which changes your outer world. So, but let's go ahead and move to the chart here. I got a little chart for you. We're talking about this energy here. But as you see, we got the moon here just freshly entered into Pisces. And this one is going to be a bit of a lighter transit during this period of time. The moon's not going to make too many aspects. Of course, it's going to come up on a sextile eventually here with Mercury. And what I like about the moon and Mercury, that's where the head and the heart and the feelings can be in alignment there. And sextiles are opportunities. It's an easier type of transit there. So this could be, especially because we have the sun that's getting ready to move into Gemini here soon. Saturn's about to enter into Aries here soon. This could be an opportunity to see what you're feeling with the moon and Pisces, and what you plan on doing with the things that you're feeling with the moon, with Mercury and Taurus. This can help you get make practical sense of the things that you're moving or that you're feeling, and how are you growing through this, or what is getting ready to come up for you there. Because soon after this day, the sun will enter into Gemini. So just a little bit later in the day, I think it's about 11 or so, that the sun enters. So we have a couple planetary shifts that's going to be coming up here over the next week. And so this would be, and even with Mercury, eventually Mercury's catching up with the sun too. It'll be in Gemini before we know it. So with all of these changes that are happening, what are you feeling through this, and how are you making sense through this time? Because it's ultimately pretty easy flow. The only maybe harsher one, eventually too, is going to form a little square with Big Papa. So there might be a little tension there as far as we're sensing the expansion. We'll notice that we have to do some work. So what are our thoughts about it? What are some research that we may want to do? But I think eventually when the moon forms that conjunction with Saturn a little bit later, that'll help you to give form to whatever you've been feeling over this period of time that the moon is in Pisces. Because that's where I find, and that's a great place I think for Saturn to be, to be able to provide structure and form in that sort of waters of Pisces. I'm getting like the visual of an aquarium. And I think that this could be a really good time to just really kind of lock in the feelings for the changes that are coming. Because I've been having conversations with just a bunch of different people. I was talking with a Capricorn yesterday, and I think a lot of people are feeling Saturn hasn't ingress into Aries yet, but they feel the exit happening, and I think that that's a pretty good consensus. So it's I was talking with them about this stuff, and it's what, I really am feeling that. And it's if that's what you're feeling, let's get that, let's get ahead of Saturn. You don't want to be lagging behind. But yeah, those are just some things I think to think about over these next couple of days there. But allow yourself that time for visualization to really kind of imagine, okay, what's coming up for me? What do I want to do with these energies? What are my intentions with this? How do I want to be an active participant for this journey, as opposed to things just happening to me? How can I make this energy happen for me? And I think even just in that can give you a lot of power, or at least if not just anything else, help you just what, the energies are matching what I'm feeling, so at least I know that I'm on the right track. So that can be even something just kind of heartening to think about. But let's go ahead and get into your general energy of the day, because despite the title of it, it's a pretty nice one. So you got hexagram 16, which is wariness, and it is thunder over earth. And you got changing line 4 for this. So if you want to look a little bit more into that, there are various resources down there. I have a link for a website down there, but I definitely would check out some. But I think I put the book down there. If not, I'll put the link for the book that I personally use on when I'm doing this channel, the I-Ching, the Oracle by Kirsten Huang. That's a really great source. But let's talk about your general energy, which says, weary at play. There will be big gains, but or be not suspicious of friendly gossip. And when I think of this as weary at play, I think that's an interesting contrast. It's it's giving me this energy of not necessarily, because I think with Pisces, one thing that they get associated with is like escapism, but there can be a healthy level of escapism. We need sometimes to just go away and just kind of play for a little bit, to put, not necessarily like again ignore our responsibilities, but put them to the side for a minute, to allow ourselves some time at play. Allow yourself to play so much in that you do get a little tired. That you're feeling a little exhausted because you've been working those a different side of the mental muscle. I'll tell you, I've been doing different magical practices, and that's really, I've noticed that there is a, it reminds me of when I started doing these like left-handed affirmations. When I started doing that, I could literally feel new connections in the brain opening up. Like my brain's like, oh, okay, you're trying to do this thing. New commands are coming through. Let me try to incorporate what that feels like. And sometimes that can be a bit of a workout, but the same sort of thing I think comes with when you're getting into like visualization, imagination. The more you flex that muscle, it can take a lot out of you. But I think that it's like learning to develop that strength in that muscle, because it talks about there will be big gains, because where you start to get those visualizations, it promotes that creative thinking, which gives you that, like, those kind of like aha moments, that sort of like, oh my gosh, like epiphanies can come through. So I say allow yourself to make more time for some play. Schedule aside some time each day so that because I think what happens sometimes when we get into those overindulgent phases is because we haven't allowed ourselves, there isn't that moderation. I'm even getting like a visualization of the temperance card. We want to not necessarily work hard and play hard, because again, I think that leads to extremes. But if you can work smart and play smart and find that balance, I think some really great things can happen. And talking about it too, be not suspicious of friendly gossip. There may be some people where and not necessarily that they're talking about like, oh, they seem to be just kind of lollygagging, or they're living their best life, or, I don't think that it's looking at them as they're trying to smear your name or anything along those lines. But I think that sometimes, because especially with like, if you have like, I've noticed people who have like a lot of water energy, it may not seem like they're doing a lot in the micro or in the macro for like the bigger picture, maybe even in the micro, maybe that's what I'm thinking more of, compared to like how maybe like a fire sign would do it, like an earth sign or even an air sign. But water needs that time to kind of dip and steep in those energies, and then the water energy gets moved and do these things and creates these really great things. So don't be worried about how people do it, compare how you need to do things compared to how other people do things. That's something that I've even been thinking about over the years, where it's like, I'm someone who has a lot of, my son's in Cancer, but I'm a very fiery Cancer. I have a lot of active energy. It's all fire and air placements, but majority fire. And I know where when I get called to do something, and when I feel to do something, I'm on it. It's like, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. So it's like energy. But I can't expect someone with like heavy earth placements or heavy water, maybe air. I might be able to get some air energy going, but like water and earth, that's a little bit different than how you do that. So, don't worry about the gossip. Let people talk, because when they see what comes to fruition while you're doing this thing, they may be like, oh, well, tell me, how did you do that? What is your routine? It seemed like you were just kind of coasting there, but then you ended up like you're doing a lot, maybe more things just behind the scene is going on there. So that's just what I'm getting with this energy. Just allowing more time to just kind of strengthen that play muscle, because big things will come, and then people may be saying one thing, but again, when they see your results, then they're going to be thinking another thing. Then they're going to be wanting to get your secrets. So just something I think to think about and not let. And you know what, I think too there's an energy of not allowing yourself to feel guilty, to allow yourself that time for play too. You know, I think that that's something we get pushed to do, just work all the time, and that's not practical. It's just not. Sometimes you need some times to play, like music, or you know, maybe go with some friends, or just like draw, doodle, write, sing, whatever that might, like build something, whatever that might look like there for you. So, but we'll get into that more. We'll get a little bit more into that in the tarot here in a moment. But if before we get into this, these readings that I do, they're not gender specific readings, so apply these energies to people as they make sense for your situations. And then I'm going to talk about different themes as far as like money matters, health, legal things, romance, but this is by no means professional advice. Talk to your financial advisors, your doctors, healers, lawyers, therapists, things, all those people doing that really great work. But I'm going to pull 6 cards, and they're going to cover different themes. And since you got a clarifier, or since you got a changing line at line 4, I'm going to get a clarifier for that card as well once we get to that topic. But let's go ahead and get into your first card here, which talks about if you're looking for questions as far as like any sort of like short-term money matters, maybe how you're spending your time, things along those lines. Let's see what's going on with the monies. All right, so you got the 2 of Swords here. And this to me is giving this energy of maybe you're weighing your options for something. You know, it's like it's almost like we're at this sort of like crossroads here. Do I do X or do I invest in Y? And it might come to a decision where you may need to make peace with that. You know what, I need to start this thing up right now. What makes it, even though, because I think sometimes when we're even thinking about the astrology, it's like we could be thinking about all of the themes that can come up, and it can get too overwhelming. And it's like, you know what makes more sense for you to invest your time or your money in for where you're at on your life right now? You know, I know we could think about, well, I want to be here at this time and want to be here at this time, but right now, you know, that those feelings may change as you go along on this journey here. So I think that this is one where the 2 of Swords is, especially when it's upright, it's just making that peace, like coming from that balanced position. I've weighed the pros and cons of this thing, and let's just go with this one. And you know, and this may feel a little uncomfortable, but and I know, you know, maybe not for bigger life decisions, but sometimes if you're feeling on the fence about something, toss a coin on it. see where that, and then whatever it lands on, let that be the decision that you follow. I've done that a few times now, and it's yielded some pretty positive results every time that I do it. So that might even be something that that might be resonating for you here. But I think whatever this decision maybe it is that you're getting ready to make, I'm just looking at the land and things, the landscape behind this person, and I really think that it's like, whatever decision that you're going to make, it's going to open up a lot of doors for you. And I think that it's like trying not to get into that feeling of like, what is that, FOMO, that fear of missing out, because there's always going to be something. But I find if we focus too much on where things are going to go, we don't make a decision on anything and end up just staying there. Classic Libra. This is Moon in Libra. So just something I think to think about there. All right, let's get into your next card here, which talks about any sort of like medical matters or things along those lines if you're coming here to find out about like health or things like that. So you have the 8 of Wands in reverse here. And this is one where, you know, I'm definitely getting an energy here, especially talking about that weary at play. Maybe that we've been moving the energies too fast, and maybe there's a need to slow down a little bit when the Ace of Wands is reversed. Because remember, this is a really fast-moving type of energy here. But if you've just been kind of just going, this may be a time to just, like, again, allow yourself some play. Not just be tired from work, be tired from play. Like, man, you know what? I've had enough of this imagination. And I'm feeling inspired. I want to do something with this. But you know, this 8 of Wands too, there's giving me that a need for being patient, because maybe you're waiting on maybe a message for from like maybe some sort of test result. Maybe this is yours, maybe this is another person here. And I would be, try not to let, thinking about the moon in Pisces, not trying not to let your imagination get out of control just because maybe you haven't heard something immediately. Give it a little bit more time and maybe set up like, okay, if I don't hear anything in the next maybe day or so, I'm going to do maybe a follow-up, because maybe there was something that day that got happened. Maybe there were some wires that have got crossed there, or maybe someone gets busy or whatever that might be. People, mistakes, the oversights can happen sometimes. So that might be something to think about there. Okay, yeah, but that's all I got for that one there. Let's get into your third card here, which talks about any sort of like legal matters, or if you come here looking for legal matters or any sort of like social affairs and things along those lines. All right, so you got the Five of Wands in reverse. And I will say with the Five of Wands, let's talk legal first. I'd be mindful about being combative. The Five of Wands can be a very hot energy. It can feel like you're being suppressed, where the energy is being restricted in some sort of way. You feel like maybe you're not able to get your point across, or that the only way you could do is just like, making a big scene, or be, this over like dominating or aggressive type of energy there. And so that would be something I would think about there, where and this might be where someone is pushing your buttons, possibly. Maybe they're trying to bring you down to their level, and it's just like, nope. Let's say if this is some sort of like court case, for example, it's like, and instead you're not going to come to me to talk about these things where there's nothing on record. This could be where it's like, what, like you can have this conversation with my lawyer, or we can do this in where there's a third party involved or something along those lines. So that's just one thing that I'm getting. And then, of course, if there's something that's going on in like your group setting there, maybe there's been some dissonance as of late. Maybe you feel like you're maybe growing in different directions, possibly here. Everyone, maybe it doesn't have to be like a big group, but maybe you're just noticing that there's maybe a rift that's happening. I don't think this necessarily has to be something where you have to be, where necessarily that a fight has to break out. But maybe this could just be like a sit down where it's just like, hey, I've noticed that we've been at odds here as of late. And what's going on with that? Like, these are the things that are, and then just like kind of having a heart to heart. This is where I'm seeing because I'll tell you what, speaking of fire, I had a situation where I applied too much heat, and this person has like definitely more earth, more kind of a mix earth fire, not that much fire, Venus and Sag, but yeah, I applied too much heat. And if I had to come at it a bit differently, maybe we would be, the relationship would be different than what it is now. But I think that, just sometimes just having those moments where you could just like express your frustrations, but express it in a way that's like constructive. Like, this is why I've been feeling like this. It's not just because of what you're doing, but I have this on my plate as well. So that's just something that's coming through there. And that there's a way of establishing the dominance or things without it having to be yelling, because that's not like leadership, or that's just aggressive. It's just reactive. So that's just something I think to think about there. It's very interesting. I'm getting just kind of just in general, just kind of drawn to I keep getting here like just like a lot of blue skies that are coming through this right now. So if there's anything so far with the stuff that you're meditating on, this could be again a time to just like go outside, just kind of look at the sky to maybe get some clarity, to maybe get some bigger perspectives there. That's just something that's kind of coming through there. Just noticing how the cards are coming out. Well, let's get into your next card, which talks about any sort of like marriage, relationship matters, things along those lines. Let's see if you have any questions about love. Let's see what's going on with that one. Oh, gray skies. That's fine. You got the Three of Swords here in reverse, and you know what? Maybe there's something. this could be, we were talking about those legal matters with the fifth. Maybe there's a separation that's happening. We may be feeling some type of way, because even though this is a thought card with the Three of Swords, there's a very, this big red heart here. There's some feelings around the thoughts that we're having. Maybe we had a relationship that, and it doesn't even be something that needed to end because of some harshness. Maybe this could be a relationship as far as like a friendship that is, maybe someone's moving or something along those lines where a dynamic's changing in. Of course, we're feeling some type of way, but that doesn't mean, I remember when I moved away from Florida, I was leaving behind a good friend. I just started to really build back up my friendships again. But this friend and I, we still talk like almost every other day. So it's one of those things where maybe the dynamic is shifting a little bit, but that doesn't mean that things have to end maybe because there's this. And I actually was just talking with another friend. They're thinking about moving here probably sooner rather than later. And that's going to change the dynamic. But they're actually moving to where I was born. So it's like, what, that may be even an invitation to come visit there, because I've been wanting to go back to my home place and really get an opinion of that. So who knows what kind of new things may blossom from that. So just because something's ending, that doesn't mean, there's a beginning that's happening with that as well. But let's get a clarifier for the Three of Swords here. Interesting. So you have the Three of Wands in reverse. And this, to me, it really feels like it's just like not quite sure where things are going yet. Like, what does this mean? How do we put this energy into things going forward? And that might be too, maybe we're in this place where, maybe someone's doing some work stuff right now. Maybe they're going a long distance, possibly. And it's just like, how are we going to stay in communication? How do we keep this long-term or long-distance relationship that's working there? That's interesting. Maybe even kind of thinking with this eight of Wands here, it's just like maybe you're feeling like the messages, like how we communicate is going to be different. Like the dynamic is going to change. But this is interesting. Both of these cards are exalted cards. The Three of Wands is the Sun in Aries, and the Three of Swords is Saturn in Libra. And so I think that could be something there for however this relationship, whatever this may be, if this is applying to your situation, this could be a time for you where you both in maybe a difficult situations where both of your brighter sides come through there, where it's like, what, I'm not, like, let's say if like this is like a work relationship, let's say you're leaving, but you want to keep this friendship. I'm going to make it a point to show up each day. And then you just kind of match the energies. And then if things don't seem to come across, then we'll reevaluate this thing. But I think that instead of anticipating like, oh, I'll probably never talk to this person again, because if that's what you settle on, then that's what's going to happen. But if you're like, what, I'm going to give this an earnest try, then who knows what that'll look like. So that's just something I think to just kind of to consider there. But let's go ahead and get into your next card, which is, this is just like any sort of like immediately pressing affairs. So if you just have any just sort of just wanted general answers right now. Let's see what's going on over on that one. And look at that, blue skies again. And we're in a great sky too. You got the Six of Wands here. And, so whatever situation that you're, maybe just kind of general question or any sort of immediately pressing affair, this could lead to a good result. Could lead to a sense of a victory here with the Six of Wands. This could lead to some sort of recognition. Maybe you're thinking like, oh, do I want to make a move on a promotion, or maybe do I want to, whatever this decision may be. The Six of Wands is usually heralds like a good omen for what's to come here. Yeah, that's all I'm got for the Six of Wands there. All right, let's get into your last card here, which is it deals with the consequences of the karma of a situation. So if you're wondering how a situation may turn out, let's get some energy on that. or like the consequences of a certain action. Oh, lovely. And there came the sun. You got the sun here, and that's fantastic. You know, the sun is the happiest card in the deck. There's this brightness that comes. It just automatically just lightens up the energy here. And I would say, for if you're wondering about how a situation is going to turn out in the long run, I do feel that it's going to lead to some happiness overall. Even again, if there's some sort of like separation maybe that's happening, possibly there, maybe a little bit of tension that was going on here. Once you get on the other side of that thing, it'll be just fresh, fresh energy, new landscape. The after the sunlight, because you know how it happens. Like after a storm comes, when the sun comes through, there's just like automatically, it's just like yes. Actually, I was looking out earlier today, and when I got up, it's a pretty cloudy sky over here. But then right as I was getting ready to record the video, the sun came out, and I mean, now it's just like brilliant. This blue sky, like was watching the clouds just really zip by. The wind was just really moving it, and yeah, it was just like a promise for like what I thought how the day was gonna be. I was like, okay, it's gonna be a little rainy. I'm always grateful for the rain, but I do love me some sun, having as much Leo as I do. So yeah. And this could be too, where if we're thinking about, because sometimes I think we can get where we're thinking about like the destiny or situation, or like the whether we made a right choice or not. And sometimes I don't think it's about necessarily whether it was the right or wrong choice. It's how do I make the most of the choice that I've made? Because I made it with the tools that I was at, where I was at in my journey. So just something I think to think about there. But let's get some advice from Big Papa. All right, so you got the five, a lot of weather going on here. You got the Five of Pentacles in reverse here, and let's switch back over. And that's interesting, just even thinking about the weather imagery and just thinking about Jupiter. Jupiter is the Wheel of Fortune in tarot. We all go through these cycles here. We all go through these changes. And where we may feel sometimes where we get at a low, where we're worried about how something's going to pan out, if we're not going to, what am I going to do without this thing, like, oh my gosh, things are going to turn out this way. If we spend then that time panicking, then that's just all that's going to manifest. But it's just like, what? Let me focus on the light at the end of the tunnel here. I may be going through maybe a bit of a winter moment, but it's not going to last forever, and to allow yourself, and again, I'm just getting drawn back to that weary at play, this needing of, if you've been worried about something to help you get out of that worried place for a minute, something to break up the cycle so that you can come at it with some fresh eyes, possibly. That's just something that's kind of coming through there with that Five of Pentacles. And I get with the Five of Pentacles too. Sometimes it's not focusing on what you don't have; it's focus on what you do have. And I know that can be hard sometimes, especially when we're in the middle of a situation, maybe like a Three of Swords, a Five of Wands. But when we focus on what we have, then we have more to work with. Whereas if we're just focusing on what we don't have, then we're just stuck. Then we're just staying in this place of, just like there's no motion, no movement. So that's just another thing that's kind of coming through there. But I think that's all I got for you. So a little something to meditate on. But if you like that, if anything resonated with you, give it a thumbs up. And share this if you know somebody who gets, are we not going to not thumb something today? Oh, there we go. And share this with someone if you happen to know anyone who could get some nuggets of wisdom from this. And then subscribe there, you son. Hit that if you haven't already. Hit that bell button, get notified when I release videos each day. And then let me get your surprise card or cards here. But if you want to work with me more closely, want to get to know your chart a bit more, want to talk about the different transits, whatever that may be looking like for you. Maybe you're looking to get a tarot reading, maybe you want to get an I-Ching reading. Down in the description box, there's a link for the services that I provide, the prices for them, and how to get in touch with me if you do have any other cool questions that you need clarifying on or anything along those lines. And then if you want to, on my other channel, Alchemist 8, I do these weekly videos that talk about the celestial bodies, where they're the signs that they're transiting through, and how to work with those energies, how to bring that stuff from the heavens down to home here on the ground. And I also do these videos, or I have these videos that I'm getting ready to. Finally, I'm forcing the time in there because I've been dealing with some other things, but I have these videos that talk about different planetary placements and different signs in different houses. So if that's something, in my thoughts on them. So if you want to check that out, get some kind of maybe get you thinking about maybe your placements in a different way, that's available for you as well. And they're nice. They're all organized in some playlists there, so definitely check that out. And if you have any requests that you want to videos that you want to see, definitely leave a comment for me and I'll get on that for you. All right, but let's go ahead and get into your surprise card here, which you have the surrender card here. And when I think about this, when we're thinking about surrendering, it's not just this thing of where we're giving up or things. It's like surrendering is grounded in trust. Trust that higher force, your angel, your guardians, whatever that's looking like for you, is going to get you through whatever these maybe 5 of Pentacles, 3 of Swords, 5 of Wands energy that you may be going through, that this is all happening for a reason, that this is all happening for your higher purpose. Again, whatever that's looking like in life there. And I find that the more that we come to trust in that process, the more we feel like we're going back to Jupiter in the Wheel of Fortune, where you feel less moved by the wheel, and it being where you're more in the center and you're able to observe the cycles more, and the cycles are spinning around you as opposed to you spinning up, getting caught in the weather and getting caught up in like this kind of cycle here. We learn to like observe the changes there. It's just like, oh, okay, this was what's going on here, but now this thing is happening. So like, and it's just like watching the weather. One moment I was thinking, okay, like if I'm gonna, when I go outside, I'm probably gonna need my rain jacket, I'm gonna need this, I'm gonna need that. Oh, the sun comes out. Okay, that kind of adjusts things a little bit, but maybe I'll still take a rain jacket just in case, because I still see some clouds hovering there, so who knows how things might change, but at least I'm prepared for it, as opposed to getting caught off guard and not knowing what's going on there, wearing shorts and things, and then it's a downpour. So, but I think, again, if you're going through that sort of like that personal winter, that, again, that dark night, maybe that you're trusting the process, and communing with those higher forces, because they're there to guide you through this thing, and it just really kind of fortifies your mettle in a sense. So, yeah, I think that's all I got for you there. So until next time, stay mindful out there, and you keep eyes on that moon, and I will catch you on the next one. Oh, how lovely. Jupiter Day.